one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let me just give us everybody an explanation of what this actually is. This is not really a question and answer session with the council. It's basically your chance to come up here and explain your thoughts on MXD. Yeah. And to be honest with you, even though it's on our agenda, the council is not going to deal with it tonight. The plan has been to have this public hearing now because people are really poor at showing up at planning hearings, I guess. So we decided to do it now to give everybody a chance to come in and talk. And then after this, it's going back to planning so they can take whatever the comments are here tonight and look at it in light of what they're doing. And I can see all the planning people out there nodding their heads. So if anybody wants to speak on ordinance 2017-9, the mixed use district, step on up to the podium.
Good evening. It's Lindy Brown, 201 Lookout Avenue, and I'm not speaking as a member of planning. I'm speaking as a concerned citizen. I'm very much opposed to this ordinance. I don't believe it has the vision we started out with in 2011, when their vision was a cute little walkable downtown area with storefronts, apartments up on top where our children could afford to live, and that we got the commercial and we got the viable community and walkability. And I do not at all feel comfortable that this ordinance will give us that. And also, I want to also point out, I didn't move to Mount Airy for Kentlands or for Germantown. I left Gaithersburg for the rural feeling of Mount Airy, and that's what I love. Thank you.
Carl?
Well, first off, I'd like to pass out something to the council to see, just to show the example of
Pass it on around.
Mixed use zoning that can come here with this ordinance. All right, this is an example of the site plan that's currently being built in Montgomery County at a metro center. So, hello, my name's Carl Munder. I'm a resident at 2002 Fieldbrook Lane, Mount Airy, Maryland. And first, I would just like to thank the Planning Commission for the work to develop this ordinance, good or bad. It's taken a while, which is always good because thoughts go into it. So thank you for your time and effort in development of this ordinance. And I would like to restate that some form of MXD zoning can be beneficial to the town in its efforts to attract new business and residency. But I would like to state that mixed use is a type of zoning primarily used in urban settings, not rural. So that you have to take into consideration that too, that this is potentially has the potential to develop into an urban type of development over time. And it's been mentioned in several planning meetings that the town intends to apply this new zoning classification to the Beck property, which is approximately 70 acres on both sides of Route 27. This would replace the current zoning classification as a community commercial for the property on the west side and the R7 townhouses on the eastern portion of this property. As currently drafted, the ordinance has several problems that increases the development, the density of development. Here's two of them. It exempts mixed-use development from the current town code requiring that a certain percentage of acres be left as open space within the development. And the development ratio that is set forth into this does little to guarantee a diversified development of commercial and residential, and may work in favor of a developer and not the residents of the town. I would hope that the council, well, since I'll skip that one since it's not even going up for a vote. But there's another mixed ordinance, 2017-7, that would still, that the council should approve, because it would still allow any potential developer that purchases the Beck property to use their mixed use classification or designs on the west side property, because it is zoned community commercial, which is that 2017-7, which is will allow mixed use in community commercial. And as for the zoning of the Beck, while also allowing the developer the other option, the west side of the Beck property. As for the zoning of the Beck property on the east side, the current R7 zoning should be left in place. If a more diversified housing mix is desired on the east side, the town should develop a mixed-use residential zoning or mirror, which is being used in a lot of newer developments now, with the stipulation that it cannot exceed the units that would be currently allowed for development on that property. This would allow for the open space, diversified housing on the east side, continue maintaining the residential feel of the east side of town and all that. And that's it. Thank you for your time. Sorry, it's quick.
I have a question for
Yeah,
you, Carl.
yeah, no problem.
2017-7 is mixed-use zoning as a special exception.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, 2017-9 is mixed-use zoning, period.
Okay.
I want to make sure I understand your position correctly.
Okay.
Your concern is that if we don't pass 2017-9, but we
Okay.
do pass 2017-7, which is as a special exception,
Okay.
is that a developer could potentially come and use the special exception process to apply it to basically the west side of the
Yes.
Beck property.
Yes, that can
Okay.
still happen,
All right.
unfortunately, but then again, it allows, it still potentially maintains a market value for a developer to look
Right.
into it, which would also help us maybe with the completion of Center Street
Okay,
more
all
so.
right,
And
yeah.
so it's good and bad. You gotta sometimes take the bad with the good,
It's
the
a,
good with
it's
the
a
bad.
valid concern. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I
Yeah.
understood
Yeah.
what you were saying. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to speak on this topic? Not seeing anyone, I will adjourn the public hearing, and we will get started again at approximately 7:30.
Sounds good.
I think it's nice, but I'm wearing a jacket. I dressed appropriately. I dressed appropriately.
Well, I sent you an email asking for clarification, but I did make a change to what I assumed it meant.
They have a problem over here with
subliminal. All right, hold on. Are you stripping me?
Seriously? Over. I guess these are like for the police academy candidate stuff.
Oh, okay.
It just needs to basically be signed. Pretty much standard, everything that they do for everyone. So,
Okay.
I guess get you to review for legal sufficiency and
Okay.
put the John Hancock on there.
Oh, it's for, yeah. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Yep. Got it. Okay.
All right.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
And I know I got your email.
Did you?
I'll get back to you about the mutual aid. I just want to check with the statute. Statute requires certain agreement. I know people sort of just.
Yeah, whatever.
But I'm not even, I'm not even making.
Savings everybody else.
Yeah.
And I know there's Carter County way is one thing, Carroll County way is another thing. Each other's funny, they got their own.
Okay. Peter.
It's on here, yeah.
This is what the Green Committee needs to be involved in.
Okay, well, you will have to defend it, that's why you need this as an emergency item.
That's why I put you up here so
I told him.
Okay. Then we will not do it that way. Okay.
Hey,
Just introduction,
They can wait.
that'll be quick.
I'm on board.
Let them know. Because we waited all year on them, now they're gonna wait on us.
Okay,
So I'm good with it.
all right. All right, you guys all ready? Bob, you all ready?
Are you going to introduce the officers?
You want to,
Bob hasn't.
do you want to do it at the police report or when? Do you want to introduce all the officers or?
Yeah, when we do the police report, I'll introduce the officers and then I'll stick around to the budget room, and then I'll cut loose from there. Because we're all gonna go up to JMP Pizza, grab dinner.
Going up where?
JMP Pizza,
Oh, okay.
we're gonna fill that place up, and then I guess.
All right, let's call this September 11th, 2017, Manor Town Council meeting to order. Let's start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're all running just a few minutes late here because we were all up at the 9/11 memorial ceremony up the street.
Actually, Councilman Scott suggested we do a moment of silence for the hurricane victims laying on the list.
All right, so we're going to do a
So,
moment of silence for
we ask-
the hurricane victims and in remembrance of 9/11. Thank you. Good idea, Scott. Thank you. All right, we have no speakers tonight, which is good, because for those of you who looked at the agenda, this is a long one. It's the only three-pager I remember. I don't believe we have any presentations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approval of the minutes. Jason had just a change in capitalization, I believe.
Colleen already fixed it.
Okay. I will second Bob's motion. Any discussion on it? We're doing both open and closed minutes, right, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
By the way, Councilman Poirier will be here shortly. It's back to school night, and he's a teacher, so that takes a priority. All right. I don't see the resident troopers here. I guess this would have been their last one. I do want to take this time to thank them for the many years of service they've given the town. I've gotten to know quite a few of the troopers, and they've really done a great job. This changeover is not really, doesn't have to do with the quality of the troopers that were here. It largely has to do with dollars and cents and just getting a larger, much larger force for the same dollars. Chief, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to also echo Councilman Helt's comments about the resident trooper program. It's kind of hard to imagine Mount Airy without resident troopers because it's coming from an old trooper himself. I was a part of that, and it's the good point is, I guess you got an old trooper coming in to kind of take care of things, so that's a plus. Can I get my officers up here? Everybody come on up, come on up. Briefly, I want to introduce the Mount Airy Police Department. Some of them you've met before. Tonight we just had a swearing-in ceremony up at Pine Grove Chapel where we introduced three more officers to the town and the community, and we're going to do it here again this evening. Of course, you know Sergeant Snyder, who's been with us for a while now. He comes from the Baltimore Police Department. He was a lieutenant there. We have Corporal Halterman, who was an officer at the Hampstead Police Department. Joining our ranks today is James Brooks. He comes from the Tawnytown Police Department. He was a sergeant in their department. He had how many years experience up there, Jim? 13 years? 13 years in Tawnytown. We have Chris Medeiros, and he is from the York City Police Department and also the Baltimore Police Department. He did 5 years in Baltimore, 5 years, and then almost 2 years in York City. That's correct. And we have Mike Ginevra. He's a 22-year veteran of the Baltimore Police Department, correct?
21 years, sir.
21 years. Yes. So, as you can see, we have a good amount of experience here working for the town now. I would say we're up over 100 years worth of experience here. And
Chief,
are
can
getting
we
close
can we
to
give
it.
them a round of applause?
Thank you. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, as far as the chief's report, we had several trainings and meetings throughout the month of August. The biggest of which we had 2 weeks of in-service training for the officers coming on board in order to keep up their Maryland Police Training Commission certifications. So they're all fully trained, ready to go. In addition, they've also completed pretty much the required 80 hours of field training that's required by Maryland Police Training Commission now for lateral officers. It's no longer acceptable just to have a lateral officer come from a new department and put them on the street without any orientation program, I guess, so to speak, and to go through a field training process with the new department. So they're required to do 80 hours of field training, and they're all near completion of that, ready to hit the streets in October. They've begun patrol function, and they're supporting the Maryland State Police in their role and mission. So they're riding around, handling some calls, backing the troopers up, and working with them in tandem. The department's now moved their operations to the new station located at 205 Center Street, Suite 203. The phone number for the department, the new phone number is 301-703-1375. And again, starting October 1st, MAPD will be operational and will be handling all law enforcement matters within town limits. And due to our numbers right now, we only have 6 officers. We're going to have about 3 hours a day that the town's going to be handled by both the sheriff's departments, the Frederick and Carroll County Sheriff's Departments. We'll have routine patrols between 7 a.m. and 3 a.m. daily until we get up to full manpower, and then we'll assume the 24-hour service probably within about this time, a little before this time next year. So that's where we're at. Right now, we've been working on MOUs with the sheriff's departments and so forth to cover the agreement between the sheriff's departments and MAPD to have the sheriff's departments come in here and give us a hand and so forth. Future activities, we're in the process of having the Keystone RMS getting ready to be added to the department's infrastructure, that's our records management system. Pretty much it's standard in police operations nowadays. It's a way that the officers write their reports, and it goes into a database, so to speak, and it accounts for uniform crime reporting and statistical information, much like the troopers give the town when they come in and give their report. It keeps all the statistical data on the arrests they made, the types of crimes they handle, investigate, and the reporting thereof, all the incidents. We're working on that with the county at this time. It's a joint effort between all the departments pretty much in the county and the sheriff's department. So upcoming training, we're going to have meters, NCIC training for the officer to be able to utilize certain databases, which is basically the National Crime Information Center. And it's how they run MVA records, on drivers and criminal history records and so forth. We'll have Keystone RMS training, and also our in-car video system. We'll have training for the officers on that. We're going to have future meetings with the Communications Center, Carroll, Frederick counties, to finalize our operations with the communications system. And again, we're working on finalizing the MOUs with the Carroll and Frederick County Sheriff's Office. And again, October 1st is our date. We become fully operational at that time. And we're also planning an open house for the community to come in and see the new station. So, and that is the chief's report. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. It's 703. I'm sorry, 301. 703.
703, right?
1375, 1375.
It's also written in the mayor's report this month.
301, 703, 1375.
Frederick,
Thank you.
DC.
And just so people know, if you call that number and it's not answered, it'll be picked up by the Emergency Communications Center in Carroll County, which does transmit for all the municipalities in Howard, Frederick, Montgomery, Carroll County, so.
Thanks, Chief. All right, Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company report. Bruce?
You're all dressed up?
He was at the 9/11 ceremony.
Well, I was hoping, maybe you buy uniforms, dress uniforms for the police department.
That is a
Actually, the
temporary
chief-
uniform, I
The
think.
chief and the second in command do have dress uniforms. Coming, I assume. They're budgeted.
All right, for the month of August, we had in Carroll County, rescue calls, we had 81, in Frederick 65, 6 in Howard, none in Montgomery, for a total of 152. Fire calls, we had 12 in Carroll, 10 in Frederick, 2 in Howard, and 2 in Montgomery, for a total of 26, which gave us 93 calls for service in Carroll, 75 in Frederick, 8 in Howard, 2 in Montgomery, for a total of 178 calls for service. And we're looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow at Memories Charcoal House. Anytime during the day, stop by. We'll be getting a portion of every sale there as our annual Memories fundraiser. And then in the evening, out on the patio, there'll be a performance by the, I believe, the Montgomery County Drum and Bagpipe Group. So if you're into that sort of thing, you stop by for that also and spend a lot of money. And on the 29th of September, the auxiliary will be having another one of their Friday evening community dinners. So please come out and support the auxiliary for that activity. Thank you.
Bruce, any word on how the carnival did this year?
It did pretty good. It wasn't our best year, of course, because we lost a few days, but it wasn't bad. And
Yeah, you also had a couple absolutely perfect
we
nights, too.
had some really great days during the week. We were quite surprised. So overall, it came out quite well.
Yeah, I was up there getting fried Oreos every night, and it was good.
All right. Okay.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
All right, community concerns, citizen comments. This is 15 minutes we've set aside where if anybody in the town has some issue they want to bring forward to the council, this is your chance. You want to come on up to the podium, and if there's somebody already at the podium, you can just stand next to them on the wall. Amethyst?
Hi, Amethyst Timok, 708 South Main Street. It's not a concern, it's just an information. Our third annual Beards, Beers, and Brats Festival is October 14th. This year's festival is raising funds for Ava's T21 Foundation, who is creating a line item for an inclusionary playground to work with Parks and Rec. We're looking at a 12,000 square foot playground that would be adaptive to all sorts of needs, not just for juveniles, but for adults with disabilities and senior citizens. The festival will include 26 breweries, 6 bands. It is a free festival. You just pay to drink. It is family friendly. It includes a lot of local businesses, a lot of local foods, and just a good time.
Yep.
Had a blast last year, Amethyst,
Yep.
and thank you for letting us park in your parking lot. For
You're
the thing
welcome.
of the
Yes,
trip.
I'll send you a bill.
Anybody else? All right. Okay, first up, ordinance 2017-14. This is the budget amendment for the police department. This is here for introduction. However, I have it listed as a possible emergency. And Chief, you want to fill us in particularly on why it would be good if this was done as an emergency measure?
Uh,
Just for the populace, let me
yeah.
explain. An emergency measure, typically what we would do is something is introduced, and then it is voted on a month later. In order to speed that process up, which sometimes we have to do, it requires 4 votes of the council, which would require everybody here tonight, in order to pass something as an emergency measure. Otherwise, it would just be introduced tonight, and then it would be brought up next month, and it would only take 3 votes to get it done next month. So, Chief?
Yeah, basically, what this is for the police RMS system, which basically it's an incident offense-based reporting system, which was developed to enhance the capability for capturing accurate information for report writing and record-keeping activities. And our RMS system, or records management system, consists of uniform records such as incident offenses reports, which is extremely beneficial to law enforcement agencies and necessary. It's more of a necessity in today's world. This is something we budgeted for last year. Of course, it's also in conjunction with the county, who's also doing a CAD RMS replacement for their old system
It's on the Carroll side,
on the
right?
Carroll County side, which we're operating in tandem with. We are basically kind of piggybacking on their system, and we're along with other departments in the county. This is, again, it was budgeted last year, but because of the county budget process and the fact that our station was delayed in getting done and we didn't have our infrastructure in place, the timelines got off and we weren't able to make the purchase before the end of the fiscal year.
Just
So this
largely
is-
just a transfer of money we voted to
Correct,
from last year.
correct. We were just basically moving
into
it.
this year so that we can do it.
Correct. And the county, we're actually in the process of getting this installed within this month. So, I don't think the emergency exception is necessary. I think they can wait 2 months before they receive their payment. We just do it through the normal
Then-
course of business, because we waited this long with them. I think,
Okay.
it wouldn't be an issue.
Then I
So-
will introduce 2017-14. I see a second from Scott. Then
No emergency.
We'll deal with it next month. No emergency. It will be on
Correct.
next month's agenda. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
That speeds things up a little too. We always appreciate
Saved
that.
you the words.
All right, charter amendment. Scott, this is really yours, 2017-1.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce the referendum for pay raises for elected officials.
I'll second that. Do you want to give her just some idea of what the basis of it is?
Yeah, so basically, what is being introduced for consideration is the ability to have either increases or decreases for elected officials, to have the public be able to weigh in on that. So currently, right now, the way it ends up working is that if we have either an increase or decrease in salary, which we haven't had one in a long time for any of the elected officials, but with that regard, you'd have to wait until the next election cycle, and then only those individuals that are coming in would be able to do that, which is fair. But the problem is you get into an accounting aspect where you have one half that's on the old salary part and then next half coming in on a new salary part. So what this would allow to do is 2 things. One, it would allow the public to actually weigh in with a referendum to say whether they agree or not for the upcoming election. If so, and the vote is for, then whatever that change is, up or down, would go into effect for all members immediately right after the election. So it's only for the individuals that are newly elected to office or continuing office after the election point. It'd be no time before then.
All right, thanks, Scott. That'll be on next month's agenda. Yeah, we're right. Ordinance 2017-11 is the ordinance that matches that to make it work.
And I'll
Moving it in,
introduce
I
that.
will second it. That'll be on next month's agenda together with it.
Peter, excuse me. So we're just gonna, no advertising until next month, correct?
Correct, yeah. Wait until we go through it next month and then go through the advertising
Okay.
process, yeah.
I just ask a quick question. Is there a secondary purpose of this to clean up the code? Because it,
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly correct.
okay,
Whenever you're gonna make a change, you might as well just clean up
right.
issues.
Right, because the verbiage was, it took me a little while to sort through it, but I made it. But,
Correct.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
All right, 2017-12, budget amendment for construction for police station. This is for introduction, but we also had a statement here that you would like this to be an emergency. I think this was coming from you, Rachel?
Yeah, well, I'm representing Barney tonight,
Barney,
but,
yeah, right,
but
but-
yeah, I guess apparently the construction has gone over a little further than, into the time, in the next year that they anticipated. So in order to get, the bills are coming in and all that stuff, and
It was
then
budgeted for last year.
it was budgeted
Right,
for
and
last
we-
year,
and-
so.
But this is a case where these bills are already due for guys who are working over there, and we need to get the money moved from last year to this year to pay for it. Is that correct?
Right, so we're not overdue on our paying our obligations.
Right, we don't want,
And it's also for our execution of our police force that's supposed to start in the beginning of October.
Exactly.
yeah. So I will move that we approve that as an emergency measure.
And I will second.
Okay, well, that probably means it'll pass. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, it was just, it's a money, it was just a money shuffle from one year to the next. 2017-13, I don't think I'm going. Budget amendment, this is for the ENR project for the wastewater treatment plant. Rachel, this one actually has your name on it.
Yeah, this one I'll take, but from my understanding, I guess when with the construction as well, it's like 80% complete on there, and I didn't realize that it wasn't budgeted to follow into this following year until I went trying to get invoices paid, and then I found out that
You found out that we're spending
That
money
it
in this
wasn't-
year,
yeah,
that we
that-
budgeted in last year, and we need to move it again, very similar.
exactly. I'm not asking for any
Yeah.
more money than originally that we had budgeted.
This is
for.
just a rollover.
It's just a rollover.
And once again, you're saying this is a situation where people have already done the work, and they're sitting waiting for their invoices to be paid.
Exactly.
And just as a businessman myself, I understand we need to pay our invoices.
And I understand. I'll be more cognizant to.
So the only question I'll have is, this is the second one coming forward of moving money over. Is there any other things that we need to evaluate coming that money needs to be rolled over
I believe these two are the only two that I had,
for now? Okay.
my understanding.
We might consider, if it's possible, to do it in an easy way of somehow adding this to our budget discussions every year that, about moving money over, because this is 5 years we do this.
Yeah.
every
This is the
spring.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
You can change the process, this is the process.
There's a charter provision that says that unexpended budgeted dollars at the end of a budget year have to be reappropriated, which is why
So we have to do
Why
it
we
no matter
gotta
what?
it is required.
Right.
Okay.
yeah. And the problem is, you've got this, for you and I, we put money away for something, and then we just pay it when the bill comes due. But government doesn't operate that way. When it becomes July 1st, all the money we had put aside last year for something disappears, even though a lot of these projects
technically
run
disappear.
across. A lot of these projects run across that time
Yeah, I
frame.
mean, we kill ourselves.
Every year.
At work to try to get everything out by the last day of June, because July
Yep.
1st is new money.
budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jason, we're on 5. I will move we accept this as an emergency measure.
I will second it.
Bob's gonna second it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Jason, you a nay or an abstain?
I'll
Just
be,
go-
abstain.
Jason is an abstain, just go ahead. Jason, we're on number 6.
Thank you.
On page 2. Ordinance 17-15 is to amend, clarify the town code regarding outside dining in the downtown zone. This is here solely for introduction. Scott, you want to introduce it?
Yes, I'd like to introduce.
I will second it. And we'll deal with that last month. I know there was still some discussion about clarification on that one with, I think, with you and Tom. Ordinance 2017-16, budget amendment for the rehabilitation of elevated water tank number 1. This is here for introduction. This is a water issue. We're not gonna do that till spring, so
Can
Heather.
I apologize. With your introduction with that ordinance, will you then, do you want to forward that to planning now, or, because it is an amendment to the
does deal with
zoning?
zoning.
So it does need to be forwarded to planning commission for review
Before
and
we actually deal with it.
recommendation.
Okay.
Then I think it should probably go to planning at this
Okay, I
point.
just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify.
So it's technically been introduced here, so
Okay.
planning should probably take it up.
Okay.
We're talking 6.
That was
Yeah,
number
this was
6,
six.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
Heather's right,
2000.
it
So-
is a planning issue. So planning should get it at some time, and they should get it between when we introduce it and when we vote on it.
Right.
Okay, so I'll forward that along to them.
Right. We'll need a public hearing on it? Okay.
Mhm,
So-
yeah,
so
it's in
after
the
planning gets
zoning.
done, then
Yeah.
it'll probably be 60, 90 days before we
Good
get back to
question.
it.
Yeah, the planning commission, has 60 days to review it, and then it'll come
Oh,
back to
very
you
good.
for a public
Alright.
hearing.
Doesn't impact me.
Okay, Barney's, budget amendment for rehabilitation of elevated water tank number 1. That's a water and sewer issue, which we've discussed a lot at water and sewer. That's not gonna be done till next spring, so that's no emergency there. I will just introduce that budget amendment. Do I have a second?
Yeah,
Larry seconded, okay. We will deal with that next month, because we have, like I said, we're gonna redo that plant, next spring.
so that takes
Ordinance
this one out.
2017-17, mixed-use, commercial, and residential development.
2017-7.
I'm sorry,
17-7.
2017-7. The numbers are blurring together. It's been a long day. Mixed-use, commercial, and residential development in the CC zone. This is the text amendment that, there it is, that Rob brought forward. This is here for adoption tonight. Do we have a motion on it?
Remember, there were
I'll make that motion.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
You move it? I will second that so we can discuss it. Now, there've been a number of changes, so,
You want me to explain?
yeah, Tom, that's good.
So,
I mean, we got this huge letter.
so when this text amendment was originally applied for and introduced, it was sort of modeled on an earlier version of the MXD ordinance as it existed in draft form at that time. And in addition, since then, the MXD has undergone a number of changes, but most specifically, a little bit of a reorganization. And so essentially, the changes that are redlined here sort of model to some degree, not completely, the reorganization of the MXD ordinance. Essentially, when originally proposed, it was proposed as a zoning ordinance, an amendment to our zoning chapter. However, portions of it really deal with planning. That is to say, the process by which a mixed use development special exception goes through the planning commission. And what gets submitted, what material is required of the developer, what gets reviewed, how many steps it takes from the beginning until the final plan is approved, and things of that sort. So a lot of the changes you see are to simply pull what had initially been proposed as simply a zoning ordinance, pull some of it and put it, in my view, in its proper place, which is in Chapter 98. So essentially, you're creating, in effect, two different sections or sets of sections from what had been one. And that happened under the MXD ordinance since this was originally proposed. And so in speaking with Rob, whose application it is, we went probably painstakingly, more so than he would have cared to have, went through all of the changes. He has agreed to them as the applicant. So that's why you see all of those changes for, by and large, in general terms. And I provided a red line version as well as a clean version with the changes so that it can be easily enacted. And also an email that I think lays out and explains, that everybody should have, if you care to read it.
We put them together.
That explains kind of what the changes are about and essentially what we're doing. So.
Any discussion from the council?
Did planning provide feedback based on the red lines that were drafted?
I believe, and Tom, you could probably, that planning did not. However, I believe the effort was to mirror the text amendment as closely as possible to the MXD ordinance that was recommended by planning. Tom,
So,
would you?
so the thought
I would-
process. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I would say that planning hasn't reviewed it, however, the changes are for the most part the same language that they already recommended to you. It's just that we're taking language and putting it in a different section for the most part.
So you
It's a
reorganized it, but it's the
reorganization,
same.
but it's basically still the same language that the Planning Commission reviewed couple months ago. There may be one or two exceptions, Rob.
In addition.
Rob, I saw Roxanne moving over there. She knew that you needed to get up here. She knows the drill.
Rob Scranton, CBI Development. In addition, it did incorporate all of the recommendations from the Planning Commission's hearing on the text amendment. So again, it took those, put them in the appropriate place that Tom, as the land use attorney, familiar with, public ordinances, put it in the right categories. So, but it does include everything that was recommended from Planning Commission.
How do
For
you-
example, taking it from a 15 days notice provision to 30 days is one of the, actually that came from the public that was incorporated into the ordinance as well.
How do you see, I mean, as a builder, you'd probably be the first one to use this. Obviously, that's why you're here with the text amendment. How do you see that being applied, at least initially, by yourself? What do you, how do you see it working? What are you gonna build?
Well, specifically, it was brought on as part of the Green Tree project.
Okay.
To move that along. That's the CC zone property that has been discussed as a model / example in the MXD discussions.
Okay.
Any further
Heather, what
questions?
was the general feedback from planning on this?
Planning did forward a favorable recommendation on the text amendment with the changes of the public notification, requiring the 15-day public notification to a 30-day.
Any discussion?
If I may add to that, it was, again, I guess the biggest difference between what's in front of you and what the council and planning commission have continued to work on, I apologize, missed the public hearing, but on the traditional MXD zone, was this took it back kind of to the roots. This text amendment took it kind of to the roots of what MXD started in its original intent. I think it was coined the phrase at one of the hearings, MXD light. So it really put it more into the scope and more appropriate for Mount Airy, at least for now. And so that was our initiative to bring it back. Where the rest of it goes from here, that'll yet to be determined. But for this, it keeps it on a small scale, restricted to certain types of properties, and hopefully much more manageable out of the gate.
Okay, Jason?
I'm not sure if I posed this question last time to you, just to get clarification, but on K sub-item 3, where it says the maximum for drive-through services, it just says in parentheses, number of lanes. Should that indicate a number?
What page are you on?
Page 7 of 11.
Are you on the?
K3,
K3?
middle of the page,
Are you on the clean copy or the red line copy?
red line.
I'm the copy that they gave me.
It's red line.
Okay. What was the page number again?
Here, Rob.
Say it is.
K3.
A maximum number of blank, like, so,
That was 2, wasn't it? It was 2 somewhere along.
It just doesn't call it a number.
It was 2 at some point.
If you go to the number 3 document that Debbie Parker provided to you, which is the clean version, it would have been the binder clipped. It's page 6 of 15 on that version.
okay.
And it does state 2. So if you
Okay.
go to page 6 of 15, drive through, and that's actually E, now. E3 is a maximum of 2 lanes shall be permitted.
Okay.
Yeah, it was,
As long as there's no, a number, it's just.
It was
very
2.
vague. Okay. I didn't want 7 drive-through lanes.
nope,
Okay.
neither do I, neither do I. Doesn't work really well with your parking.
No.
You wouldn't need to park. It's all drive-through.
Just drive through.
It's all drive-through.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, I got a question. Last month I brought up, or actually 2 months ago, I brought up the 40-foot requirement and the intent of that is as meaning no more than 3 stories. And my question is, again, why we don't put in a story maximum when we're talking about 40 feet, and the obvious intent of that is to keep it at 3 stories. Why can't we put 3 stories in there? So I guess that's a question for, sorry, Heather, but Heather or planning, what is keeping us from putting 3 stories in this document?
I can speak to not this text amendment, but the Planning Commission was posed that question in the actual MXD zone, and they felt that the 40-story height.
40-foot.
Oh my.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
You guys didn't get the words.
that's for the new mayor's office.
It's cold in here, so my brain froze up. Wow. 40
That's
foot
gonna hit the paper
height.
tomorrow.
I can see the cranes coming down the street.
Sorry about that. 40-foot height was reasonable. I don't speak for the Planning Commission, but they felt that, you know, as you go outside the downtown, historic downtown, that the stories may not matter as much, and that 4 stories wouldn't have as great of an impact.
What they're saying is you could go to 4 floors
And not be any higher than 40
and
feet.
not be any far, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
could have 4 10-foot floors.
Yeah.
Traditionally, if it's retail on a main level and residential or office above, you can only get 3, traditionally.
So, and the Planning Commission is okay with 4 stories on another piece of commercial property if this is used as a special exception, say, for example, on the Beck property, if this came into
I
play?
could not answer directly for them with respect to this text amendment. Their rationale, that rationale that I just stated was for the MXD zone.
Right.
So I think we might have a planning commission member.
And actually, I got a question for Heather, you know, from an enforcement issue. How do you calculate that? For example, right next door here, we have buildings which are 2 in the front, but I'm thinking there are 4 in the
Right.
back.
It's at the street level.
Well,
Which
which is the
street?
street?
Front street or back street?
The front the
So
front
somebody
elevation.
determines that this is the front, even though, for example, for miscellaneous distillery, that's the front.
So a corner lot becomes an issue.
A corner lot would become an issue, and that's where the zoning administrator does make those lot orientation decisions.
But it's the front of the building at
Yeah.
grade level.
Yes.
Thanks.
Larry?
Yes.
Yeah, the reason we did use the 40-foot is because of topographical issues as well. Because in the back, for instance, this is the topo of the land, because it slants down, the height is just the same as 4 levels as it is at 3 on the street level.
Okay.
So why say stories when you do feet? And then you have in the, I'm just speaking to the one that we have the flexibility with retail, because most of the time retail floors, correct me if I'm wrong,
They have a higher ceiling.
have a higher ceiling. I thought one of the cats, yeah. So that's what happens with that.
Okay.
That's why we don't have that.
I get that. My concern
I mean,
is-
I'm okay with that, really, because you can, there's enough limitations in the MXD ordinance that was introduced tonight that will help with that. Plus, the Planning Commission is going to have, they're going to look at everything, every plot, every plan that comes in, and it's going to have the flexibility to look and see exactly what's going to be the best for the town and for the developer.
Okay.
I see Rob got,
Add just to put it in perspective and scope, a 3-story townhome, okay, that's
Okay.
3 stories out of the ground
Yes.
is going to be just shy of, it's going to be just under 30 feet. But
Okay.
when you talk about the roof elevation, it's approaching pretty close to 40.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a townhouse community mixed, some townhouses mixed in with perhaps some condos or other retail mixed buildings, the scale and scope between those two isn't terribly different.
Okay.
Okay, so from a scale perspective, it might help understand that, 40 feet isn't much higher than that in
Yeah,
scale.
I guess my concern is that, we open up a avenue toward a apartment complex where they shove 4 stories into a very tight place. And I'm concerned that that may not be something that we want. I get green tree. I understand that.
Well, I
My
think
concern
that,
is-
again, the height is really is a scale measurement. It's not how many real floors. It's what's going to fit in the surroundings and that's why I give the example of both downtown or a traditional 3-story townhome, where it's really not that much bigger for that type of building. So I was just trying to give you a
appreciate
perspective
it.
on
Yeah.
that.
And you have a
I
valid
think the
concern,
other-
they'll shrink the floors to get the.
I think the other thing that was
And they do it
that I
downtown
think
all the
was
time.
discussed is exactly what Peter said. So you get to a building where there's some grade issues, then you get into perhaps some sort of disagreement, and it's not clear if it's based on stories as opposed to how you calculate feet. Because there's a definite language in the code of how they calculate a building height.
Yeah.
It already exists.
Yeah.
So
Okay. All right.
I hope that helps.
Well, I appreciate it, and if the planning commission was comfortable with it, I might be willing to ride my way through that. But,
Well, and also, any one of these is gonna come right back through planning. That's where it starts. It's where it's gonna stay until it's built.
yeah, yes, as a special exception. My other big concern with this, and believe me, I'm a supporter of everything I've seen with, in terms of green tree and mixed use in that area. Everything looks very good there. My concern with this right now is that, two lines down, we're going to be talking about MXD, and we're just going to introduce it. But what happens if MXD doesn't pass, and we don't pass the MXD zoning? Then a developer will come in here and grab this as a special exception, for example, on the back property, and try to implement this. Now, we'll have some oversight because it's a special exception. He's going to have to go through the Planning Commission and Board of Appeals and everything. My concern, and there are planning commissions out here, my concern is that the Planning Commission has not looked at this ordinance with any thought toward the fact that MXD may not pass and this may be used for other development in town. And there may be some adjustments, in particular in percentages or in allowances, what can be done there. My question for the Planning Commission and for the staff is, have we factored in that this may pass and then MXD overall may not? And then we'll be stuck with what's written here. And that concerns me.
I appreciate that, Larry. I kind of wondered if we were putting the cart before the horse a little.
Yeah, and I just wish the Planning Commission would look at it one more time with an expectation that MXD may not pass and this will. And what we're gonna do with this if MXD doesn't pass, how that's gonna affect us, so.
If I may, I can't speak for the Planning Commission, but I can speak to the fact that they have reviewed this and they have recommended approval.
Of this, yes.
Correct. And this text amendment, although I was asked what the example is for any CC property that meets the criteria that's in there that they approved. So I have to say that, again, that document goes back to what was discussed for 4 years as to what the vision was for any CC property. That would be, because it started out as CC was the primary, one of the primary zoning classifications that MXD would apply to.
Mm-hmm.
It was at the request of additional property owners over the 4 years that it expanded to other zoning districts. But it started out
just in CC 4 years ago.
Okay.
So again, and that term MXD light, I was under the impression from the public hearings with the Planning Commission that they were very comfortable with this because it kind of rolled it back to where we started before we added other properties outside the CC zone and then started expanding, stories and all the other things that went along with it. So this sort of rolled it back and tightened the reins on it to a point where the Planning Commission had gotten to a year and a half ago. So, I'm under the impression that they have fully vetted this over the 4 years. There is nothing different in here than they saw in the hearing where they recommended approval.
Yeah.
The only difference is, as Tom explained, just reorganizing the same language into the parts of your code where it actually applies.
Okay. All right.
So other zones are already protected, downtown zone and other zones are protected already. They won't apply there.
And truthfully, during those discussions, it was other CC projects or properties were used in theoretical discussion. Okay, well, what if it was at this particular CC property at so many acres? What would the vision be? What could happen there? And that was discussed at some of the workshops with the task force.
You're
leading up to this.
you're trying to make a zoning, or you're trying to develop a zoning that will cover a 1 acre piece of property up here on South Main Street, and at the same time, a 70-acre property out on Beck. They both apply.
Well,
North Main, for the record.
This
Yeah.
applies to 10 acres or greater. So
Right.
it's not open to any CC property. It's 10 acres or greater.
yeah.
Which is a big piece of property.
Yeah, there's only a handful
only
of
a few of
tracks.
those.
There's only a couple
Only
of
a few
pieces.
10-acre
And
pieces of
all of
property.
them, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, all the CC properties that would apply, that could utilize this, this text amendment were contemplated in the list of properties that if MXD were to move forward, would have been the included properties. But it's a much smaller list than if MXD were expanded to the other zones that were contemplated. Is that an accurate statement?
That is an accurate statement, yes. And again, it's just, and I've heard some concerns about perhaps existing commercial properties being redeveloped under any of these ordinances. And it's important to note that the ordinance is targeting vacant tracts of land.
It specifically says vacant.
Yeah, it's in,
That might not be a bad thing someday when, a large shopping center looks horrible and there's a possibility, and maybe that someday that comes to your table as well. But right now it applies to vacant
So
tracts
could
of
you
land,
just-
10
could you
acres or
just tear
greater.
down a building and
Right,
make it a
that's
vacant
what I was gonna
piece
ask.
of
Can you
land?
make it vacant by just ripping it down to ground?
Does that make it vacant
that
if
con-
you
is-
level it
yeah.
and take everything off
I had
of
the
it?
same thought.
I'm looking towards Tom for that. I'd like to phone a friend.
Profitable property.
It's generally not cost effective to vacate it before you have an approval of what you're gonna do. Just
No, but I'm just thinking along the lines, like Peter was saying, if somebody really wanted to redevelop a property into MXD and they had this envisionment of what fits in an MXD, they could level it at cost of whatever it's gonna be, and then apply.
Yeah, if the MXD is their maximum dollar, it might make sense for them to level it,
It's
whatever is
It's a
there.
pretty far shot, guys.
Yeah.
No, it is, but
Yeah, I
it
think
just
it is
lays
too.
out
Well,
that
this
somebody
is-
theoretically
well,
could do it.
this
It's
is
like
not-
buying a house and leveling it, and you put something else in place of
Well,
the
this
house.
is not CC. Look at the old car dealership at the top of the hill that burned. I assume they're just gonna sweep all that stuff up and take it away
I think
for
that's
junk
under
at
10
some
acres.
point. I said, and it's not CC, it's probably close to 10 acres.
No.
No,
It's
Really?
not
Okay.
even.
But,
2.8.
Not even close.
okay, but that's gonna be leveled at some point,
Less
that's
than
gonna be
3.
vacant soon.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I got
Larry?
one more question.
Sure.
Under MXD, it has allowances for, gives a list of things that would be allowed to be done in there. Some of them are things like pharmacies, medical facilities, and I understand why that's in there and everything. And this is a question for Tom that I asked earlier. How does this fit into medical cannabis and in particular that? So,
Well, certainly some of the, and we've discussed this sort of offline a little bit. Right now, the way this is written and the MXD is written, I believe, it allows, as a use of right, although this is a special exception, but drugstores with or without drive-through services. I don't, profess to be on top of the medical cannabis regulations at all. But in looking at it in preparation for tonight, given your question, it appears that specific dispensaries have to be approved, and some have been approved, as a matter of fact, in order to sell or dispense medical marijuana. I don't know how that's going to change in the future. I don't know if pharmacies are going to be, at some point in time, dispensing this as medication. I'm not sure how it's going to work in the future.
The
right now they
requirements are
don't.
much stricter.
That's
than not
that's
doing it in
correct.
pharmacy.
Right.
You have to have
Okay.
security
That was a
cameras.
tangential question.
I think the other part of that, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's not a specified use by right in any zoning district, the applicant, if it is truly a dispensary, they would have to come and have a text amendment to have it allowed. If it's allowed in a regular drugstore, like CVS starts selling it,
Yeah.
it's already by right
Right.
in the zone that exists
But
today.
it's not in the state of Maryland.
Right, it's gonna be dispensaries,
Right,
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but the thought process is that maybe at some point they may just push it into pharmacies.
Okay.
Right, so.
That would be,
you know,
that
if
would be
were to
allowed.
occur, you may have to do something with the language to, if you're looking to
Yeah.
prevent that.
Yeah. In the whole code.
I think you'd also mentioned vape stores.
Yeah.
Now,
What stores?
on the,
Oh,
on
okay.
vape stores.
For the record,
What is that?
I had a vape tenant
Yeah.
asked to go next door,
Vape?
and that's sat vacant, and I turned it down.
Okay.
It just didn't fit with the mix we already have. And they may be suitable somewhere, they just didn't work with the tenant mix we had.
Yeah.
So,
No,
I don't know.
I think I understand the vape part of it,
Okay.
because that's not included in here. Medical cannabis was kind of on the side, but I realize we kind of drug us sideways a little bit. But my biggest concern with this, and hopefully, and I'm relying on Bob, the liaison to planning, to tell me that the planning commission is comfortable with this and has thought through the process that this may pass and MXD may not. And a developer may come and grab this document and say, okay, this is the way we want to go.
Well, and I think Tom's assured us all that that can't happen simply because of the the state of Maryland has rules and regulations on medical cannabis.
No, I'm not talking about medical
He's talking about
cannabis.
just
I'm
this
talking
ordinance.
about the
They'll
special
follow these
exception
guidelines.
for MXD.
We'll see. I can't tell you what the planning commission is gonna do, but
Do you have any input?
Well, I think they
Bill?
voted to recommend it. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
They voted to recommend it, but my
You don't-
concern is that they voted to recommend it without thinking through the process that MXD may not pass overall, and that this special exception would be the guideline.
I can't, that's not been discussed. To the best of my knowledge.
Bill, do you have?
Okay, Bill Butts, Planning Commission. First off, we're fairly comfortable with the MXD draft and the revisions that we've submitted.
The overall MXD draft?
Yeah, we
Okay.
spent a lot of time with it. What hasn't been mentioned tonight is the controls that are inherent in that ordinance, including pattern books, okay? That you basically can see mapped out what form the design will take. All of the requirements, all of the controls, all of the maximums and so forth that you build into a zone like MXD, okay? You don't really understand how they can be applied unless you can visualize it. A thing called a pattern book allows you to do that. From one property to another, you can literally see what's the proposed design and the extent to which it indeed, stays within the guidelines that are spelled out in MXD. We were comfortable with that. We liked that a lot. That gave us an extra degree of control, if you will, okay, for that ordinance. It was one of the ways we felt we can complement and amplify our downtown by an adjacent area or one that's close by. Effectively, over time, over a number of years, expand our town center, okay, and not have the topographical issues and constraints that we have now just in the downtown area. Secondly, we're very, very comfortable with MXD Lite because it is a simpler, purer form of the MXD concept, okay? We thought it would give us and give developers some extra flexibility, okay? And it could be considered in more than just the particular areas that we first started out considering for MXD, which was basically for infill consideration, okay? Which made sense in terms of existing infrastructure and not taxing or expanding infrastructure that wasn't in place. So it was very a cost-effective approach in terms of a new district. So we have a comfort level with both of them, okay? Would it make sense for us to clarify and spend enough time with you so that you're comfortable as well with MXD and we get to a point where indeed it could be passed? Perhaps so. You know, that perhaps it could be argued that it unnecessarily suspends the time frame required for, you know, the CC zone use of it. But that's where we came out. We see very positive application and the ability to control and get the essence of how this would augment what we already have in town and the flexibility of it in both cases.
Okay.
So,
all right, yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that the Planning Commission did on it, and I know that Leslie adjusted the percentages in it, which I thought was great with the rest of the Planning Commission, so.
Yeah, he wasn't called to talk.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I'm reading through this, and it was been mentioned, maybe Heather can help me, show me in this, where this is. It was mentioned, and I saw in several previous drafts, the size requirement of 10 acres or less, or excuse me, 10 acres or more.
Can I have my, my little stickies, or can you?
Because I've been flipping through it on the number 3 copy, and I don't see any reference to
10 acres.
10.
It's
In the whereas?
112-62,
Okay, on what page there?
starting on page 12 of 15 of the clean copy.
Okay, maybe I'm just not.
And what that section is it sets forth the standards that a person applying for a special exception is required to
Okay.
establish.
Gotcha.
We call specific standards.
Yeah.
If you
good.
look at B, minimum tract size, the vacant tract must be a minimum of
Oh.
10 acres in order to be considered for
Hold on a second, let me
MXD
catch up.
dash.
Hold on. Gotcha. Okay, cool. I just,
That's, see, I had it tabbed.
That's
the only
fine,
way
I
could
just-
find it.
thank you, Tom. I just kept
Thanks, Carl.
glancing
Any-
glancing
Some
over it.
important clarification.
Any other questions, guys? Not hearing any, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Not seeing any? Yep. Ordinance 2008, 2017-8.
You're close.
2017-8, budget amendment to take money from park reserves for basketball court in Backacre Park. This is here for adoption. We actually, I guess, we introduced this last month, correct?
We did.
That's why it's up
Yes.
for, okay. That's what I thought. That's why it says adoption.
Yeah.
Larry, this is really yours.
Yeah, so I make a motion to approve.
Scott, I'll let Scott second that one. Beat me to it.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
I can get some background on it,
Sure.
or if people are comfortable, I don't have to say a lot.
Well, I think we heard a lot of it already. Go ahead.
Well, I was just curious, as the homeowners association was against this?
No,
How have we put the basketball court and the soccer court?
No, the homeowners association was not against. This is on town land, but tell me something, Larry, in this process, did we ever post the property?
we didn't post the property. We met with residents, interested residents out there, and showed them where we were planning on putting the basketball court.
I
And
totally support this budget amendment, because that's a disconnected community. The kids can't even get across 27 to play in other playgrounds at will. However, that being said, I hope you do pass it. But I also proposed before I sign off on the money, that the property be posted, and if there's
Yeah.
any concerns with the placement, the community have a chance to speak, because it was something I really wanted done.
Last month, what we agreed to, and I know it's been a month, so, was that we would vote on it tonight, post it,
Okay.
invite residents out to the
Okay.
Parks and Rec meeting,
Larry's got it
okay,
covered.
for a public,
Sorry, I'm
public
big-
hearing.
it's on
Just
posting.
money.
Yeah, and then, you know, once that's decided and you're okay with it, Pat, then we would go ahead and pull the trigger
Because
on
one
it.
of the discussions also, which end you were going to put it on, as I recall?
Yeah,
Closer or further?
Yeah, I would go, I guess I'll give a quick recap of what's going on. The Twin Arch Crossing Townhome Development, they had a lot of those portable basketball hoops out. And their HOA came to them, and because it encourages kids to be playing in the parking lot and the streets, they decided to enforce their HOA rules and not allow for those temporary posts to be set on the sidewalks or in the parking lots. Thus, the problem, they weren't able to play basketball in their community. So they came to us, the mayor and myself, to see if there was something that we could do about it. We met with them out there. The first thing we did was looked at a close place on the upper soccer field that we thought would satisfy it, but then there were noise concerns. So we moved to the other end of the soccer field, and that actually looked okay, except for the fact that the other side of the soccer field would actually shrink down the soccer field and it wouldn't be regulation size. So we looked at the lower soccer field, which actually has a kind of a diamond shape or a triangle toward the bottom of it. And we looked at that location, which was equally, you know, about the same distance away, far enough away to keep the noise from hitting the townhouse units, but you know, close enough for them to be able to play. So we looked at that area, and that's where we finally decided that we would like to put this thing, and that's where we would post it.
Now, are we sure that we own the lower area?
We do not own the lower area
owned by
yet.
the developer.
It will be conveyed by Doc Full, by his development group,
Right.
once Brittany Manor is built. But I talked to Tom and we talked to Doc Full, and he is willing to sign a memorandum of understanding to allow us to get on the soccer field. And as a matter of fact, we are currently using that soccer field
Yeah, we
and
always-
maintaining that soccer field.
Well, they gave us permission to build a soccer field a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And they gave us permission to build a soccer field, put in the parking lot, and eventually use the lower field down there.
Right.
But the lower field was never ours.
Right,
And
so.
it's not today, correct?
It's not today. When Brittany Manor is finished out, and Brittany Manor has 73 units that are planned over there, then that property would convey to us. So we'll need two things, money and a memorandum of understanding to get onto the field. So that's what we're shooting for, and I would tell you, as Brittany Manor is developed, every house will have a $1,500 amount tagged to it for parks development. So we're kind of putting the basketball court in front of the money coming in, but you could also make an argument that Twin Arch was developed, and they didn't get they got a soccer field. They didn't get a playground, they didn't get a basketball court. So this just, this allows it, as a temporary measure, George Grovera, a member of Parks and Rec, donated a basketball post. We put it at the end of the parking lot, and they're using the heck of it. I think there's two, Jill and Heather are here, in support of this. And so kids are up there using it. I keep getting pictures of the kids using it, and they're having a good time on it. So, 50,000 is the stated estimate from Barney and Brian. I put in 55,000 because I think there'll be some grading requirements over there and potentially a fence or something. So, so that's my recap of that process.
Good job.
Any other questions?
My only question is, this is kind of like the park that's not known kind of park. From what I heard from some of the residents is that we're providing a service for the townhouses per se. And so there's no official park sign there, will Parks be looking at providing a park sign to make it an official park, knowing that these basketball courts are not just for use of those townhouse residences, and thinking that it's for private use only, rather than we're building this for all of the community. And I think that's really important, that we're going to look at this, and I see this as going over there and taking my kid to play soccer. Those older kids now have something to do instead of using the HOA playground that is provided there in the middle of the townhouses. They do have a playground. It is HOA provided. However, there is no other service to attend to the kids, and I think that's really important, that this is not just townhouse use only, that we're looking at this and making it a park. We do own the upper soccer field, so I think it is important that we label it as one that all of the residents in Mount Airy and beyond can use. So I would
Maybe you need to
make a
come up with a name.
recommendation that Parks look at putting some funding towards acquiring another sign
Park sign.
that matches the rest of the ones within the town.
I'm in agreement, and we even, I'll even admit that when we started the process, we had to figure out if it was Backacre Park or Twin Arch Park.
Right.
So a sign is a good idea. I don't think that we have sold it to the community. I mean, I think we've made you aware that it's a park amenity for all of the town. But I do agree with you. And we seem to have a connection with the sign company.
Yeah,
Right?
and I suspect once the trail gets run across from over in Nottingham, you'll see much more of a connection.
Don't speak about Nottingham and trails. Let's just stick to what this is for right now.
But I would tell you, Peter, Brittany Manor includes a trail system through it as well. So those individual family homes that go into Brittany Manor are going to be pretty close to the basketball court too. I like the idea of putting the basketball court in before they build the houses at Brittany Manor. That way everybody knows what they're getting up
Yeah,
front.
they don't come in and complain, oh, you're putting a basketball court next to my house, I don't
You
want
bought
that.
the house. Okay, so
Good.
that's it.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think that was everybody.
Yes.
Ordinance 2017-9, MXD zoning. This is not going to be voted on by us tonight. It's specifically set to go back to planning. However, planning wanted to hear any issues that the council had so they can take that back together with the citizen discussion.
In fact, with the complexity of this, what planning would actually like you to do is to, between now and the October meeting, is to go over this and look at it. Right? Yes. Go over this and look at it. It's too much to try to absorb in one night. Talk to Heather, talk to each other, and come back in October ready to discuss. And I mean, is that?
Yeah,
Unless you can have discussion tonight, but this is going back to planning, isn't it? We're not gonna vote on this tonight.
But if it goes back to planning, it has 60 days.
No, we're not necessarily at that
But see, it will go back to planning after the October meeting, not tonight.
Understood.
So that everybody has an opportunity to,
I just want to make sure
digest
it
this a
wasn't like
little
a,
bit.
go look at it and we'll talk about it in October.
We just always
and we'll have it.
reintroduce if we need to
That's fine.
keep pushing things out.
Right. But that was kind of what planning was interested in doing. They don't want you to have to make a decision about something this complex tonight.
Right. And I think what's important too is, we've heard some public comment, but if there are any considerations that that the town council would like to forward to the planning commission, send those along as well. If you do need additional time, we've had the luxury of working on this for several years. You guys have had maybe several weeks.
Luxury, huh? I didn't know that.
Yes, it's a luxury. And this is a brand new zoning classification, so, take time to
Well, if
digest
anybody
it
has
if
anything
needed.
that they want to mention, planning wants to hear it now. Larry?
My biggest concern is the percentage split. I want to make sure that we have the right percentage split in there, and I know you guys have been battling with this, but I need to be comfortable with that percentage split, and I think the rest of the council does too. I do think that that's one of the biggest concerns. And I think it's important that the public understands, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm perfectly happy to be corrected. The ordinance that we passed 2 ordinances ago is a special exception for commercial property. The commercial property is zone commercial, and they bring in the special exception to get the MXD use. This document takes an existing parcel that is zone commercial, opens up our master plan, and makes it an MXD parcel and no longer a commercial property. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this may be the biggest document I vote on in 4 years. So I want to make sure I get it right, because this is what will define Mount Airy for years to come. If we approve MXD and we don't get it right, we run the potential of having a scenario where we become the urban sprawl. And I don't want that to happen. I know you guys don't want either. I see Bill shaking his head. I just want to be really comfortable with this before we move on. And I want to make sure that people understand that this is a very important document, ordinance. Thanks.
Good cautions, Larry.
And that's kind of why it took 5 years to get this, to get here. Everything else, we're introducing it today and we're gonna adopt it next month. That's not what we're asking on this. Look at it. Take your time, look at this, digest it. Because there'll be more things that you don't understand and more things that you want answers to. And that's why we want to do, we're not pushing for, a vote tonight. Take a look at this.
Yeah. I'm happy to drink a cup of coffee with anybody who wants to talk through it with me. So.
All right. Okay, well, it's going back to planning at this point, so.
Okay, with
I think
no
we've
additional
covered it.
comments
At-
at this
at
time,
this
other
point,
than the
no.
public hearing? Okay.
Yeah.
Percentages. Look at percentages.
Except for the look at the percentages, okay.
Yeah, I was looking at those, I was going, should it be 85, should it be 75? I don't know. Okay. Ordinance, number 11, 2017-10, budget amendment for train station renovation. This is here for adoption. This is one we
Introduced
last month.
And we discussed how we sent it out to bidders. We weren't happy with the bid. We rebid it. I asked that it be reopened to local bidders. Actually, it came back cheaper. We removed some of the bonding requirements, and a local bidder is actually recommended to be awarded to.
Scott?
I would recommend for approval tonight, the
I'll-
budget amendment for the train
I'll second
station
that.
renovation.
Or- Any discussion? I'm not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, unfinished business. We have a recommendation for award for the construction for the interior of the train station.
So that's what this ordinance was funding.
Yeah.
This last one.
So now we need to award it. Rachel, you probably the one who's covering that one for Barney?
Yeah, a little bit. Do you
Okay.
want a little discussion on it?
Sure,
or-
yeah.
Okay, so, as the mayor said before, the bids went out before it was over budgeted. I mean, the bids came in way over the original budget amount, but then it got rebidded. And, I'll lose my place here.
We recommended we awarded to Bill, the Hoffman.
Yeah, so I can just go down to the
I believe you have the
recommendation.
bids.
Yeah, so the town recommends the town council approve award of the rebid for Mount Airy Historical Society project to Hopman Builders in the amount of $255,000.
I will so move. Got a second?
Second.
Second from Larry. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yep, I didn't, it
Thank you.
looked unanimous to me. All right. Wildwood Park HOA, request for the town to take over their stormwater management pond. This one's been going on for a while, and I think they finally met all the criteria. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Nice job, Tom.
And staff.
Staff,
Family.
Staff.
Staff.
HOA people.
I know
Debbie,
Debbie and Colleen put a lot of time into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, this is really your lead.
Well, by ordinance, the when they've met the petition requirements, as they have, it comes before you to vote to accept dedication. I've given you previously my written opinion about what the ordinance probably requires, and at that point in time, you all would vote on that. And if approved, then the HOA would have to come forward and provide to us a deed that I would review for legal sufficiency, and then it would be executed and accepted, well, be executed by the HOA, or on behalf of the HOA, and accepted by the mayor.
So the
And
process,
recorded.
process was initially, the HOA had to reach a certain number of members, had to sign off to turn it over. Now we have to, I guess, approve their request, and then they come back with a deed, and then we have to accept the deed that we're satisfied that all the meets and bounds and everything is all the way
Yeah,
it has to
it's,
be.
in this case, it's easy because
It's already a parcel?
It's already a
Okay.
parcel, and it's its own parcel. The only thing on that parcel is the
Okay.
stormwater.
That makes it a lot easier.
Makes
And
it very
I'll
easy.
defer to Scott.
I know.
Scott?
No, I do believe the council agreed in theory with this
Right.
months or years
Yeah,
ago.
oh yeah. Scott?
I was just gonna recommend accepting the dedication of the parcel.
I will, Larry, I'll let Larry second that one.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
This is not only the stormwater management pond, it isn't, there's some surrounding area, or is it just the stormwater management pond?
No, it's just the stormwater management.
Okay, so the other
You're thinking of
woods that
You're
are
thinking
on
of Marydale
merry-go-round way.
That's Marydale.
You're thinking of Marydale Gardens.
We'll discuss that later.
No, there's
Different
some,
one.
there's some property, there's some woods, merry-go-round way, right?
It's a conservation easement, we're not talking about that,
Okay,
we're just talking about the
that's, I was
stuff.
just looking for clarification, thank you.
They'll give it to you.
Any other discussion?
Clarify.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Looked unanimous to me.
There you go, Earl, Roger, made it through.
Everyone.
Thank you. Glad we could get that sorted out. All right,
It's not
okay.
happened yet.
Next up, we have Twin Arch Crossing property acquisition. This is the mayor's topic.
Yes, this has been an issue that's been a topic for a long time. I won't go over the history, but going all the way back to 2007. At any rate, the roads in this community are very long. They were approved. They are legally, they're not defined as town roads, and that was a process we went through and was upheld by a court. That being said, I think we can do better. And I offered a compromise years ago, was unable to get the compromise through. Some new issues have surfaced that we found out that we could not even provide police traffic enforcement. I'm not even sure if the school bus issue was brought up years ago, but we can't get school buses down there.
It was.
Okay, it was brought up years
Yeah.
ago? Okay, so the police was another new issue, and for some newer council members, we also have a problem even getting school buses back there. Thought this was a great compromise. It's a simple loop. It's fairly easy for us to plow this loop. We go in one way, we come out the other. So we put together a package to show you exactly what we want to take over. I think we need to go back, if you agree with the numbers that you've already looked at, and define that we will take curb to curb on Reading Court and Roundhouse Way, but once you get down to Trestle Street, which is the long back road, that we will only take from parking space to parking space. We don't want to get into an issue with their parking spaces.
Do you have one of those maps for all of us, or is that?
It should be
It should be-
in your package,
okay.
but it's the
My
horseshoe.
My
and-
package was a lot bigger when I got here than what I had initially.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's usually how it happens, Peter.
There's a lot of noise going on.
There's,
I don't believe it's in their package.
Yeah.
I had just given
we
it.
didn't get it.
Okay, well, here.
So we don't have it in our package?
Yeah, it's actually,
Wait, Debbie's got them right there.
yeah, and it was
This is
emailed,
just-
yeah, it was emailed to everyone. But
Can I
anyway,
just have that back when you're done with the-
taking these roads the way that I'm proposing will bring all the interconnecting roads closer
Is there
to
a marker in there?
closer to compliance. The town distance that we'd like to stay with is 300 feet. We exceeded that. We're still going to exceed that with this exception, but we're going to cut it down. We're going to allow police protection. We're going to allow school buses to be revisited back in there, and we're going to offer some relief to a community that's been taking care of roads that, in my opinion, are entirely too long.
We're already done, Peter.
There's no traffic calming devices in there, right? That would hinder our plows or anything like
No,
that? That
no, there's not.
some of the other townhouse communities have?
Right.
Okay.
Next budget, guys, eraser?
Yeah, but you're erasing my note, and I'm wondering, we should probably take a picture of that. It's probably very.
From what?
Probably 3 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
It's the last election.
well, Peter's drawing, so what would be the process that would allow us to take
Thank you,
over maintenance of that section of road?
And I think we have to get approval from the HOA and community first. I mean, in theory, they've approved. I know the
So
HOA
that would be the
president's
first step, would be the HOA?
They have to
You would
allow us
propose it as a, as compromise basically to the HOA if acceptable. You know, we'd have to, obviously acceptable to both sides, including a formal vote here.
Right.
You know, we'd have to prepare a deed. And it's, because you are severing off, only portions of a, if I recall this correctly, I believe parcel A is all the roads. So
Okay.
now you're severing off some of parcel A and taking that and leaving some in their ownership. So you're gonna have to find some way of getting that described, what it is you're taking and what it is you're leaving.
The brown is the town road. I know the bus currently
That's
does stop.
Backacre Circle.
Yeah, the bus stops currently on this road because the county would not allow them in there. I dealt with that back when I was on
Streets and
Streets
Roads.
and Roads, because we actually moved the bus stop at one time to stop traffic better, just for better safety. I actually was out there one morning with Mark Moxley and the Board of Ed people to try and move that along. The mayor's proposal is this red section here, which essentially makes a loop. These blue sections are the parking lots which we would not be taking.
No.
So I will say, at least from my perspective, these two sections here at least are clearly just access road, like any other access road in town.
It's the middle where the parking
You know,
is.
and our plows can handle those easily because they can plow to these ends. This section here is a little more problematic, mainly because it's a parking lot, and the people are gonna get plowed in. We don't have, you know, they have somebody who comes in now who has equipment to do parking lot plowing. It's not what we do or we're equipped to do. So, you know, these citizens may wanna speak on this issue, because they may, I mean, they're gonna be seriously plowed in when it snows.
Yeah.
So-
Usually that requires front loaders. You bring in front loaders to do that type of application. And it's something that the HOA and the residents over there, if you wanted to speak, did you want to speak, sir? Yeah. Please come to the podium.
Come on up.
Name's Nick Henderson. I'm a resident of Twin Arch. I'm on the HOA board. So one of the things we've discussed with some members that have come to the meetings is that if they get plowed in, which is what you're talking about right here, it is what it is. Where they're gonna have to deal with that, and if it happens, and I mean that's pretty much what anybody else deals with on any other road.
Yeah,
that
my
gets
driveway gets
right.
plowed in.
It's
I'm
just-
on a circle. My
it's nature of
driveway
the
gets plowed
beast.
in. I gotta
So-
go out there and.
Twice as much as
Yeah.
everybody.
Right, so
You, the
if
mayor,
this
the party-
does,
Oh,
if this does happen, if this passes, then it's gonna be one of the things that the residents are gonna have to take care of anyway, so.
I still think they're a lot better off.
A lot
And
better
in
off.
the- and
Yeah,
in
right.
most storms is not gonna be a lot. When you get those huge storms.
Right, this is gonna be a lifesaver for a lot of people.
It's
So-
relief that you need.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it'll be a huge help, so.
Larry?
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker. I just want to make sure the public understands that fully what we're getting, and I certainly want to know. Road maintenance of that area.
Yes.
When we're hitting potholes, or if that entire area needs to be repaved, is the town on the hook for that?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we own
Take
it.
the
We
road
treat it
down.
like a town road, the way we would repave Cottonwood Avenue if that needed work, or
typically-
Village Gate Drive, or any other community.
What about
Typically-
the parking spaces on that back road?
No.
Exclude them. Exclude.
right
Parking
down the
space
middle,
to
but
park-
not the
yeah,
parking
No, that
We
has
will
to be
only
drawn
own the
up.
center of the road.
Center of the road, on the back
Okay.
road. Yeah, that-
Traditionally, the town does not take any parking lot type roads in a townhouse development. In fact, I have 2 townhouses in town, and the town doesn't plow.
Well, we
my
don't take
parking lots.
townhomes usually, but there's 2 that we do.
But there are, yeah, that's good, yeah, but there's 2 townhouse developments where the town does, and that
Okay.
basically goes back to years ago, because each of those townhouse developments at different times had council members living in them, and those council members got it through. I think it was Bob Mead over in Friendly Acres and Lori Hager over in Tall Oaks. But in both of those, the town only has the very center. And our guys just plow a loop. They don't go in there with the, with the equipment and lift the snow and move it out. They just plow a loop like it's a street, and they just plow all the cars in.
Okay.
And that's all that's going to happen here.
We have used a front loader in that huge storm over in, what's that one over behind Food Lion? We had Tall Oaks. Tall Oaks. That's rare. It's very rare.
Here's one question I'll ask. Is there any chance, and I understand plowing in the cars on that strip, but is there any chance of us damaging vehicles plowing snow?
Yes.
In there?
We damage mailboxes all the time.
Right, and so
Thank you.
is that a concern of taking out X number of cars while we're plowing?
You are in closer proximity to more vehicles. That is a valid point. But many cars are parked in their driveway when a town plow goes by and knocks down a mailbox.
Yeah, but that just is a mailbox. A mailbox is a lot cheaper
No,
than a
cars
bunch of
too.
vehicles.
Cars too. But
I will tell you what the rule is. I'll tell you what the rule for mailboxes is. Well, I know I'm not streets and roads anymore. I have like 12 years on streets and roads. The rule for mailboxes, and I assume it would apply for cars, is if we actually hit the mailbox with the plow, we will pay to replace the mailbox. However, if it's just the sheer pressure of the snow, of which we saw a lot, when we get those tremendous, if it's the sheer pressure of the snow, that's not our fault. You didn't put in a strong enough mailbox, and you've got
But to this end, people are parking their
It's gonna be
vehicles
cars.
there, and we're only saying we're taking the middle of the road. So my concern is plowing down the middle, you're gonna send a lot of snow against a lot of vehicle sides.
Yes. Yeah. I've
Big
not,
storms, yeah.
It actually happens every storm. I actually plow for a living when it snows. The company I plow right down the center of massive parking lots. I plow in thousands of people a day, and that's just the way it is. And I mean that's how it goes in a huge storm, But
So you're the guy.
yeah, that's me.
I don't remember hearing of a car problem in Tall Oaks or Friendly Acres
I
in
was
my
just curious,
years
I mean-
on streets. I remember seeing mailbox problems, but not dealing with car problems.
I don't think car problems would be an issue as far as damage, and if it was a big deal, we could even talk about and
A
put some language
waiver,
in there and
yeah.
saying, hey, a waiver, or saying during a big storm, if a storm's coming, we have parts of certain parking lots that we have a lot of extra parking. Tell everybody to move their car, just like on a leaf pickup day. We can work something out, I'm sure.
There's plenty of town driveways that cars park right at the end. It's
Right.
the same application.
So
Yeah.
Tom was gonna say something. I know Jason wants to say something because he has a pen up too, so whichever first.
Go ahead, Tom.
I just, part of the benefit of owning something is you can tell somebody to get off it, right? And so just understand that, with parking along our public roads, you have the ability to say,
There are rules you have to
Yeah.
follow.
When there's
Right, but
snowstorm, you're supposed to be off
We only
it.
own the middle of the road, to clarify. We don't own the parking spots.
On Trestle.
right.
Correct. The other ones, the two things don't have parking
Yeah, it
right
is.
on them.
That's fine.
They're roads.
Kim is the HOA
Hi,
president.
my name is Kim Bynack. I'm
Hi.
actually the HOA president. And the islands jet out about a foot, so that gives us enough clearance between the back of a person's vehicle that's actually parked in their parking spot.
Nice.
So there is clearance. Also, when we plow in the community, we don't plow parking spaces. The residents are responsible for their own parking spaces, including the visitors and open parking. So if they want those spaces to be plowed, they're in charge of it. So we only do the driveway and the driveway only,
And it works.
and that's
Yeah,
it. And we've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah, it works.
So-
Jason?
I just
Thank you,
wanted
Joe.
to
Thanks for
speak
coming.
on behalf, we have a great public works director as well as the workers that go under him. And, no matter what the snowstorm is, my road, not because I live there, but Nottingham is plowed great, fantastic, down to the pavement. I'm just wondering, with the people that actually live on this circle and the efficiency of our guys, are they going out sooner than the HOA plow guys because they're going to be a hired company? Are we, quote unquote, giving special treatment? And, the poor people that live, just a few houses down, why aren't we saying, hey, just make a left-hand turn and do the rest of that road, and the right-hand turn and do the rest of this road? And if I look at the rest of the roads, I mean, you really come down to a dead end and just push the snow down to the dead end. I don't know if we're, we're not putting special treatment on one and then not giving it to the other, and then we're going to end up taking over the whole community and plowing it and taking it over. So I guess that's my
If I could just speak to that,
question.
it's a compromise. It's not a full takeover of the roads, and that's why you see it as a compromise. It's a horseshoe. It's not all the roads. That would be a different discussion, and we do not normally take over townhomes except for the 2 exceptions. And those townhomes that we did take over, to my knowledge, they don't exceed 300 feet. This one does. That's why we're trying to come up with a compromise, because these exceed. I've never proposed taking all the roads. I've only proposed a compromise.
That wasn't my question. My question was, are
Why
we
don't we
going
take
to
them all?
eventually?
The
No.
question is there a creep? Will it creep forward? Bob?
Oh, I got to tell you, with all the trouble I had putting this forward, you're afraid that's going to creep in? I don't think there's much trouble.
Can I try to speak on that for a sec?
Can I get to Bob first? He's got something.
I'm looking at this,
Yeah.
this red, and this is a teeny tiny bit of this, this.
Every one of their interconnecting roads still exceeds what wouldn't be a normal town standard of 300 feet. And you've got all that documentation in front of you.
Yeah, and it's just,
It's a
so
compromise,
insignificant,
folks.
compared to the size of the entire development, when we're not doing the entire development.
But so please the people that live on that place.
I see Jason's question is, the people who are out on these little blue forks, they're not gonna get plowed, and
But
the
it's
red
going to
guy.
help them, it's going to get them police protection.
I know.
It's going to get them school service.
there's
that
a
their
bigger
kids
story
can
No,
go to that corner
but
instead of that
I
corner.
still understand the question. Basically, there's gonna be these little blue things, the concern is they're gonna be full of snow, because our guys are efficient, we're gonna plow this.
I don't understand that rationale.
Although it should make it easier for the company they hire to get there to do the job, but, Jason, go ahead.
This whole thing was about easing, our financial issue that we're having, and
Well, about doing what's right, actually, from my
Right.
perspective.
right,
And it just happens to ease some of that.
Exactly. It's just, it may seem insignificant, but it's actually a huge help for the community.
Yeah.
And we've already spoken to several residents where, whatever you guys decide to do with this and move forward with it, if you do, we will make it clear to the residents that it's not gonna get better than this. And for them to get upset because the little blue lines aren't being taken care of, it's just not gonna work.
And remind them that it's
happy.
not in our process to
Right.
do townhomes, except
Right.
for the 2 exceptions that I cannot speak
Because
to.
I do
Exactly.
remember, I mean, I will say, when I was on Streets and Roads, because when I first got on Streets and Roads, I was actually the Streets and Roads department head. They actually reported to me, because I was under the old system. I can remember people from townhouses calling up and, being quite irate that we weren't plowing their townhouse development, but yet we plowed all the rest of the roads. So it does happen.
I'm sure it does, but that was
you know.
that was also probably our neighborhood is turned over quite a bit
Yeah.
since then, and we also pay a significant amount for a private company to come out and plow.
Yeah.
So
No, I
we do
understand
get
the
taken
issue,
care of,
yeah.
but on our money.
Scott?
So a question I have, and maybe a compromise in it, it's sort of what Jason was saying, and I'm just throwing out this idea, would there be the similar value of school, police service, et cetera, of just doing the main thoroughfares?
Doing the
where
two
parking is,
legs instead of
pushing
the.
it straight down to the end, so that the feeders and everybody else, at least you can get to the main roads, get out, the police can at least get down to the roads, your bus stops would be able to go up and down the sides. You wouldn't do the whole loop, right, if that's,
Yeah,
I'm trying to get a
although I don't think
compromise
you'll
there
get.
of you're just pushing the
I
non-parking
don't think you'll
space
get a
road.
bus in there unless you have the loop.
But
Because
that
it
plow,
can't-
you're
Yeah, I
not-
think,
you're not
because
plowing
I don't know, I'm asking.
I've talked to the
Yeah.
transportation chief, and they would probably turn you down if the town doesn't, if those aren't town roads.
Because you can't do the
They're not gonna
connector.
go down a dead
You
end.
can't turn
They
around.
have a turnaround. So, but it's a nice thought,
Yeah.
but I respectfully say, take the loop.
Well, and not only that, when you're plowing, you're not plowing straight on. This is not pushing a big pile of snow down to the end. It's rolling off the side.
Well, it's a downgrade. Goes right over the hill into the ravine.
So there's no way that they can push this.
Yeah, it's easy enough. We
And
discussed.
not push it under, but behind the cars. It's-
We did
that's
this
where
years
it's
ago.
gonna
The
go.
plow
That's where
runs
most
through.
of
He
it's
makes the
gonna go.
circle, he gets out.
Yeah.
He plows
All right,
through.
well, we don't actually have anything properly before us tonight. The mayor just wanted to, have a little discussion on the topic.
No, I actually
I'd
wanted
say-
approval from the council to take the roads over. To
Well,
move
I think you
forward.
probably
Write
need,
something up.
I think
Okay.
you'll need an actual ordinance. or
Write
s-
up what you're asking.
But
Yeah.
we're not
No,
gonna
wait
go
a
through the
minute.
whole process of dealing with these people.
Right.
If we don't have approval.
But I'm saying,
Yes.
you need to come forward with some type of ordinance
Well,
and
you do have
document.
numbers in front of you. You have an estimate. So is there any way to reinforce this a little bit more than us continually to chase our tail on this? Does the council support this?
Yes.
Based on well, you do, thank you. Based on, I'd like to call for a vote, based on the
He
numbers
spoke to the
seen.
entire council.
Based
Larry-
on the
okay.
numbers
No, he
that are
didn't.
provided.
And I don't want to vote, okay, several years ago, we discussed a series of projects that we were doing here in Mount Airy. We discussed openly at the table here.
The straw vote?
And it became this locked in stone kind of thing and I mean, even you participated, you voted too.
No. I
Yes,
didn't.
you did.
Just by talking, we were voting. yeah. But Larry's,
You
We
did.
knew what you were up to.
Okay.
But, so, until we
Do
have
we
something-
have council approval to move forward? Do we have funding
Larry's
to move?
got-
Can I talk?
well, Larry's next.
Then I'll talk after, thank you.
He says
I know
10
where you're trying to go, Pat, but my earlier question was what we needed to start this process, and it sounded like the HOA needs to come to us first and ask.
They are.
We're right here.
Well, I got you there, but
All right,
does
you
it
good
need to
with
be in
that?
a formal writing? I'm
Yeah.
asking Tom.
You guys tell us what we need to do, we'll do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, do they need to do something like they had to do with the stormwater
or,
management
or,
fund?
or,
Yeah, I mean, you gotta check your bylaws, and under your bylaws, you probably
Yeah.
have to have a vote. And there's probably some percentage, I guess 2/3 of membership to.
yeah.
That may take you
Transfer
several
of
years,
these
given how
properties.
long it took that HOA, that other HOA.
So to finish
Yeah.
my thought, if we go through the proper channels and everything is presented to us, I'm very supportive of the discussion, and I think this is a fair compromise. So I'm more than happy. I'm not going to commit to a vote tonight, but I'll tell you, with a process that's proper, I'm more than happy to address this and try to make something happen
Yeah,
for y'all.
I would
So.
say ditto to what Larry said for me.
Get it, Bob, Scott,
Yeah,
Jason?
I'll entertain once the final thing comes forward. Look
Well,
at
we're gonna move forward. I'm gonna approve funding for the lawyer to move forward, to work with you guys to make it happen.
And this really is about
Yeah.
speeding too. We almost
Yeah.
had several kids hit, this summer by vehicles speeding, and we can't call them.
Well, and I'd let you know what we're gonna do now. We cannot enforce speeding, but we can enforce reckless driving.
Right,
We're
exactly.
doing that now. I put you in touch with the chief. We're also purchasing 2 signs to put down in your property.
Right, yeah. Thank
Sorry,
you.
I
Peter's
approved
shot.
it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you
You're
guys.
welcome, you're welcome.
Thanks for your
All right,
consideration.
thanks.
So the council has no problem with the numbers that we
What
provided, okay.
What number?
The numbers for the
There's
maintenance.
projections for maintenance and road paving and all
Right,
that in the future.
Okay. Guys, we'll be having those meetings to move forward.
Right.
Thank you, council.
Do you have from them what you need, but Tom, you know how to get them?
Yeah, I'll just get who I'm supposed to contact.
whole new council.
All right, up next, we've got our truck bids.
They gotta do all their stuff.
Brian gave us
That's the challenge.
truck
No,
bids
it's
for
not- it's not us,
approval.
it's them. What are we doing?
I got
truck
these
bids?
2 sets of bids. Who would know best about this, Rachel or, Brian?
Brian, yeah.
Because Brian said, huh? Well, we have,
We have 2 sets of numbers.
I didn't see Brian tonight.
we have 2 bids.
Brian?
One's a 2,500.
Hey, Brian.
One's a 3,500. So you get one
Oh, there she is. I didn't see,
3,500
okay.
HD.
I didn't even
and
see you there,
two
Charlie. I
2,500.
can't see it behind Larry's chair. Okay.
In the budget, we have 2 trucks budgeted in general fund, one for a pickup and one for a small dump truck.
That's what they both have.
And then in water sewer, we have 1 pickup. So one of these bids is for 2 vehicles. It's the one
Okay,
that,
that's-
the 86 one at the bottom.
Okay, I
Those
saw
are the
that.
2 pickups.
And I wasn't sure whether or not, these were the 2, so it's 3 vehicles.
Right.
Okay, I wasn't looking at going to do,
But two
Oh, they're, yeah, they're different, yeah,
They
because
wanna
there's,
purchase all of them.
because there's, we're buying one 3,500 and we're buying two 2,500s, so there's a big difference in the size there of the vehicles.
We'll buy 3.
Right, we're buying two 2,500s and one
Truck bids,
3,500.
parentheses 3.
Yeah.
Just
I just
saying.
wanted to make sure that, well, see, I wasn't sure that whether or not we were gonna get 3 of these at 51.
Understood.
Or we were.
That's a good clarification.
Yeah, and you know what I mean, so I wasn't sure.
That's why I put 2 there.
Moving on.
Yeah, well, it says 2 here, and it says 3 here, and then, so I wasn't sure if we were supposed to somehow combine these, you know, or split them, okay.
So I'll move
We got this
forward.
sorted out.
I'll move forward to approve Brian's.
As bid here.
As bid.
I will second that.
Push.
Okay, Jason's seconding that. Any discussion, gentlemen? This was a budgeted item, these
Trust
trucks
in
we
Brian.
need. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the sooner we get them, the better, because
Scratch
we're
11 too.
gonna need to plow soon. Truck request. Okay, the next one on the elevated tank, that we're not doing that, because that's gonna be next month.
It's tied to
Oh, we're not doing the
Well,
recommendation?
we pushed off the,
We pushed off.
we pushed
ordinance
off the ordinance to fund
2017-16.
it, so
You
we
got
might
no
as
money.
well do it together. We pushed the money off till next month. We
Oh,
didn't-
but that's only for part of it.
You have no
Okay.
money.
No, there's money for part of it. We only put in for,
So there's money for this portion already in this
right,
budget?
we're asking for, if you see on the back chart, there's nine total items, but we're gonna, with the part that
It's
kind of,
the
we need extra
interior
money.
you weren't gonna do.
Right, but, so that's what the budget amendment is for, is to cover the extra money for item number 8 that we
interior.
don't have, and also for, the third-party inspection. So that's what the budget amendment is for, but we have money for the items, 1 through 7 and 9.
I'm looking to you to verify you do have the money for the things that they're proposing.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
okay, I'm waiting. I'm looking to you to validate, we do have the money for the portions of the tank that they want to approve that are outside
Yes,
of.
because we did a budget amendment today to get that.
We did not.
No, we
do a
didn't
budget
vote on the
amendment.
budget amendment today. We passed the budget amendment off.
Okay,
So
We
we're,
deferred
we're
that.
questioning whether we need to deal with this next month,
okay.
because we're thinking we push the funding off till next month.
Right, if they don't have the funding, then we just defer, I would
Now
recommend.
Rachel
deferral.
seems to think we have the funding.
From what I understand, we have the funding that was approved, for the, because the town
I thought we
budgeted
did that during the budget
$460,000 for the fiscal year 18, but the.
We did.
We
Portion of
have
it, but they didn't have enough money.
460 in the
Yes,
current.
so what happened was, and it came in the amount, sorry, bear with me a moment.
That's okay.
Right here.
We're actually
So
doing
the
pretty
total
good, I
amount
think.
of the bid came in for items 1 through 9. The total amount came in for $475,000. So that's why for this portion of it, we're eliminating
8.
item 8.
Yeah, 1 through 7 and 9.
Right,
for
so we're eliminating,
434.
so we have enough money if you eliminate item 8. And so the item 8 will be picked up with
Which one?
with the
Fiscal
budget
year.
amendment that we asked for after.
Which one
For
wants
next
to
month.
It's for adoption.
So, yeah,
The
without
money's
budget
there,
number
the
8,
money's
there is
there,
enough in the
and they
budget.
want.
There's no emergency. It's already there.
Yeah, no.
No,
All I'm saying is,
Who wants to approve it?
I'll be the one to recommend approval for 1 through 7 and 9 for the amount of 434 to, who is it, Manelis Painting, Inc.? Because it's budgeted already and we have the funds.
You haven't seconded anything today, have you?
I did. You
I'll
want to?
second it.
Great. First, second.
Second, we got a first and a
We
second.
got funding.
All
We're
right,
doing 1 through 7 and 9.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, well, yeah, but I do appreciate the confirmation
now-
from Charlene that the
Larry-
money is
Larry's the
there.
only one who
Totally
didn't speak.
understand.
I'm gonna abstain because I can't find that
Here.
doggone piece of paper in front of me. So, 1 through 7 and
Agree.
Either 1
9.
through 7 and
See
9
all
to
these,
that painting company is a
You know,
recommendation.
don't even get me started.
We're just approving the bid
Okay.
process.
I'm an aye.
He's an
Didn't
aye,
want to
okay.
approve it if I
We all
couldn't.
approved.
All right, approval of
Finding a
stormwater
mistake.
management easement for lots
There was-
9A, 11, Section 4, Twin Arch Business Park.
Okay, this is necessary so that the amended plat can be recorded combining, I believe, lots 9 and 10 into lot 9A. Basically, it's a fairly standard stormwater management easement that the county requires. Essentially gives the town the right to enter and repair, if necessary, stormwater management facilities that will be the individual owners of the lots' responsibility to maintain. So we get an easement in the event they don't at some later point in time.
Are we tying 3 and 4 together since it's for the same thing?
And then 4 is the public works agreement for lots 9A.
The PWA. You
and
want to do them
11.
both at the same time?
I would link them together,
think,
same
yeah.
property. One's
want- you-
taking water away.
You moving both?
I'm, Bob,
Due to a
you
possible
wanna link them together?
conflict of interest, I'm recusing myself.
Okay.
oh, whatever, all right,
You wanna
fine,
do-
I'll be the one.
I'll second, you're doing both, and I'll second on both.
I'll recommend putting them both together
Yeah.
in
These-
approval.
Tom, you've went over these are both standard agreements that we do all the time, and it's just a little, they look like just.
You're
a
combining the plots.
To me, it just looked like a technical issue, very simple.
That's correct, and I will add that Barney's gone over and approved the numbers for the security under the PWS.
No,
Okay.
I'm
Just
good.
making sure that wasn't one of those,
No, I'm sorry. It
Okay.
was not an
Wait.
intention.
that's that weapon pen she had.
She'll throw it. Okay.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And Bob was an abstention.
You're up.
All right, Mayor's up.
Okay, we hope everybody had a pleasant summer. We just want to remind people that our kids are back at the bus stops or walking on the streets. Please be careful. Please allow extra time. Public safety, as a reminder, there's a town curfew. Children under the age of 18 are to be off the streets, with some exceptions, from 10 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. We've had some issues, and parents, please help us out with that. Police services transition. This was touched on earlier. The Mount Airy Resident Trooper Program will end on October 1st, 2017. We will continue to have a state police presence in the vicinity and collaborate to utilize resources as necessary, but we will now benefit from our own dedicated Mount Airy police force. We look forward to increased long-term community engagement and law enforcement services to our residents. Our new police force will be housed up on Center Street. The phone number was given out tonight. I also noted how the phones will be transferred over to the Emergency Center in Carroll County. I want to acknowledge the Maryland State Police, get ready for this, guys, for 42 years of exemplary service.
Wow.
That's all the way from even before Trooper Grotti, but he's in my time, all the way up to Trooper Horner. These guys really did a great job. We just needed to move in a different direction. We felt that was best, and I thank
All
the
the way
prior
it was.
council and the majority of this council for their support, and I'm sure even the new members here would have supported it. I wanted to thank the residents of this community and some of the businesses for their humanitarian efforts in regards to the recent hurricanes. We had a lot of drives locally. We even had some local folks head on down to Florida and help with humanitarian efforts. So thank you so much. In my mayor's report, I've listed the town website, Facebook page, the Mount Airy Police Facebook page, our Twitter account, and our emergency notification link as ways to stay informed on town issues that are going on in your community. A lot of times we'll get social media hits and people are just not simply aware. There's a lot of ways to stay aware and get the official information and not chatter on somebody's Facebook page. Making Strides for Breast Cancer. The 7th annual Making Strides for Breast Cancer is Sunday, October 15th. I, along with Tom McCarran and Scott, how do you say your last name? Sergio. Scott Sergio, we are the Men in Pink. And we're going to have to come up with a catchy name, but with the real Men in Pink, and we'll be raising money for breast cancer. Scott actually has pink pants, which kind of surprised me, but was impressed all at the same time. The Welcome Monument is done. It's sitting up on 27. It's covered, it's draped. We are going to have an unveiling ceremony, and I'm inviting the entire town council.
I hadn't even noticed it. I must
Wednesday. I got a picture of it. I'll show you.
Hey, it's right there.
Wednesday,
I saw that.
actually, it's right there. Wednesday, 3:45 p.m. This ends a process that started many
This
years
Wednesday?
ago. This Wednesday, 3:45 p.m. I want to thank all the input we received, and I did what any smart guy would do when based with an aesthetic decision. I called in Larry's wife, Mary Hushauer, and Tina Swanson, and they helped pull this in. And I want to thank my intern, Pam Reed, and town staff, Rachel Goody, for all their efforts to finally make this happen. Now, every one of our arteries coming into town is distinctly marked, and this is befitting of a community of Mount Airy, and it shows our pride, so we're looking forward to unveiling that. Larry, you've been great enough to do the scheduling at the Caboose, and if you want, I can sit there on September 23rd from 10:30 to noon. I know you're marking that down. So I not only hold the mayor's forum, I'm also your local visitor station guy.
Cool.
Visitor opportunity, volunteer opportunities are available, but I tell you, we're very fortunate, with the exception of Streets and Roads, we filled you. Most of our commissions are filled, but still contact me because we have changes, we have shifts, and I'd love to hear from you and love to hear your interest, and we do have some openings on water and sewer, maybe, Streets and Roads, yes. So please contact me. And now I would like to note that we have, there is a police fundraiser. And keep in mind, the town does not do these fundraisers for the police, but private citizens do. And we're going to talk about where the funding for these fundraisers and what the needs are. And I'm going to sit down with the chief so we can come up, because there's been all kind of talk about what the funds are used for. And I want to make sure the funds are going for what we in the town and the process we want to follow. So we will look into that. But there's a fundraiser Saturday, October 21st at 10 a.m. at the Links of Shaladon. It's $85 a player. It includes golf cart, range, and food, and it's to benefit the Mount Airy Police Department. Where the funds will be used is yet to be determined. And again, we'll figure that out. So hopefully you'll attend there. And with that, I would like to make some recommendations for appointments to commissions.
I'm
Scotty?
sorry, if I can just augment, just for those that don't play golf.
Okay. If you don't golf, you can still show your support. There will be a barbecue feast at 12 noon for non-golfers, which is $25 a person. By the way, I hear their smoked prime rib out there is fantastic. So I know they do all their own wood on the property. So it's a nice restaurant out there. Okay, for the mayor's appointments, recommendations for appointment, I'm going to recommend Cindy Dunnigan for Streets and Roads and Carl Munder for Streets and Roads.
I will move we accept the mayor's recommendations.
I'll second for Streets and Roads.
Well, they're
You'll
both
second
streets and
them.
roads, so.
Yeah, are you gonna second all of them, or just the streets?
They're
and
both
roads?
streets and roads.
Second
They're
for
both
streets
they're
and
both
roads.
streets and roads.
Okay.
I got Scott covered. He did right on that.
Okay.
All right,
let them
all in
pick on
favor
you.
say aye.
Aye.
Just to clarify, it's Wednesday, the 13th at 3:30 out at the sign?
Yes.
This is Wednesday at 3:30?
3:45.
3:45.
Is there any way you can push that to 4 so I can actually
School?
make it? I'm in school.
Yes.
Can you take the photo at 4? You can unveil it then. I'm trying. I would love to be there. I just 3:45 is.
Okay,
I got
Debbie,
an issue too.
can we do it 4 o'clock? We're going to Twitter it, we're going to Facebook it, we're going to live feed it.
And I'll do 85 down 70.
The police are gone.
I want
so
to
you
make
can
it to
say
these
that
things,
now.
and then
In all fairness, this is sat in the budget for 3 years, and this councilman has supported it every time. And I know Larry wasn't on the council, but I know Larry would support it because his wife was not only involved in this process, but all the beautiful park signs that you see. And
I'll be in
Larry can't be
Milwaukee,
there. We're
though.
probably going to see if I can Photoshop him
Can you
in.
land your airplane over there?
I'll do a flyby.
We're going to wait
All
for
right.
it.
Okay.
Larry,
Thank you, Mayor.
Beautification, Parks and Rec, Larry?
All right, beautification is still working on mapping out the walking trails in the town parks. We're still getting a lot of good help from the Church of Latter-day Saints. They're coming out about once a week. This week they power washed the gazebo over at the Vest Pocket Park, which was very kind of them. We have a walk on September 29th at 9 a.m. at the east-west connector to Windy Ridge Park. And a person from the DNR is coming out to look at the plant life there and help us decide the best way to keep improving that trail leading out to Windy Ridge. On the park side, Sean Byrne started today, our new employee, our new parks manager. And I haven't been able to sit down and talk with him yet, but he's doing a turnover until, I believe, September 29th. Is that right, Amethyst? Yeah, so basically the remainder of the month will be turning over with Amethyst. We talked a lot about the basketball court, and we've already covered that. Camp night was August 19th. It rained. I got flooded
Shocker.
out. I had to go home and get a different tent. So, but I weathered through it. So, October 7th will be a work day on the trail between Main Street and Watkins Park. The LDS Church is bringing some wards out to help us on that. That's 9 a.m. to noon, and we'll be clearing brush is the main thing that we're doing on October 7th. October 14th, Beards, Beers, and Brats, already brought up, and let's see, the benefits or the proceeds from that will go toward the all-inclusive playground that we've been working on. And just to, so it's not a mystery to anybody, we are looking at where the skate park exists now as that future inclusive playground. So I just don't want that to be a mystery. I want it to be out front. Galatians Rum was on September 2nd. It rained, so I may be a common factor in that. And once again, on behalf of Parks and Beautification, I would like to emphasize that we have no interest in ATVs in the town parks. We do not want that to occur.
And Larry, I appreciate that, but until you have a proposal in front of you, I would personally just be cautious and say I'm against something. Until I know a whole lot more about it. We're certainly not talking about ATVs in Watkins Park, but there are 80 acres out there. I'm not saying we're looking at that, but I'm saying all options should be open. We should explore. We do have an issue in town. We're just trying to find answers. So for them to say we're against something blatantly, I appreciate the recommendation. I won't go by it.
It is a recommendation.
Yeah, it's a recommendation, but yeah, I'm cautious with recommendations that are blanket because they need to be based on fact, and there's nothing to be against yet. I'm sorry, I know we see that a little differently.
All right, EDC planning, Bob?
Okay, Planning Commission meeting was August the 28th. Sign ordinance discussion was long and involved. Downtown master plan is reaching an award point. I think Monica was telling me the other day, we're gonna put together a committee to award the master plan job to somebody. Let's see. Next meeting will be 9:25 Town Hall, 7 o'clock. Oh, and we have a new member, Scott Sergio. He runs around in pink pants. EDC meeting, we're working on mom and pop grants to address some of the issues you guys had with the grant when it was proposed by Melissa a couple of months ago. So we're going to continue to work on that. Farmers market through the end of September. Get up there and there's a great market every week. And you might run into a councilman up there playing a guitar and singing songs.
Could happen.
And that's every Wednesday, 3 to 7 in municipal lot through September. Next EDC meeting will be on 9/25 at 7 o'clock in Town Hall. Saturday, September the 23rd, Calvary United Methodist Church will be celebrating 100 years of service to the Mount Airy community. On Sunday, the 24th, Councilman Jason Poyer will graduate from the University of Maryland School of Public Policy with a fellowship in local governance.
Stop it.
And
I'm
that would
blushing.
be 9/23.
Sunday.
9/24.
9:24. 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, University of Maryland.
Cap and gown.
Doing something.
Pick me up.
I can. I actually have to miss my kid's soccer game so I could go to this thing, so.
Well,
The life of a councilman.
we are very proud of you. Those of us who have it are very proud of
Thank
you. We
you.
know what it takes to get there, and we will be there with you.
Appreciate
I
it.
didn't go, Jason, I just let them mail it to me.
Yeah, we're a little proud of it. We go to the ceremony, we take pictures, we bring flowers.
Peter just has mailed you.
You missed the food.
No, the food.
They had food.
Yeah, they
I
have
would have
food.
been there if I knew that.
They have, yeah, it's great, Peter. It's right at the time when the Yellow
all
Jackets
he
are getting
needs.
very, very aggressive, and they put stuff with sugar in it out there, and you get to,
All right, we're good.
it's just fun.
Moving on.
Okay, Jason, you're up next.
Thanks.
Want to talk some trash?
Sure. We did not talk sanitation recycling. We talked Sustainable Maryland. They came back with some refinements to our certificate that we had submitted, and we resubmitted with those corrections, and we're waiting to hear back. Hopefully, within this next month, we should, crossing fingers, all should be a green light go. So we're actually looking forward to Sustainable Maryland certificate here very, very shortly. I would like to thank all those staff members that took part in making sure that Celebrate Mount Airy was to the highest ability that they could, and it was such a great event, and we had a great time down there, so thank you to the town staff for putting that on. We're in talks, as far as from recycling and sanitation standpoint, we're in talks with, we're gonna be in talks with the police force to put a dispensary for expired medication, so that has a place to go. And we're also taking a closer look at HEAL, which is Healthy Eating Active Living Certificate, in pertains to the Sustainable Maryland Certificate. So we're looking at growing what that, not a quote unquote, but not a green task force, but making sure that we are Sustainable Maryland, and Mount Airy is certainly a part of that. Our next meeting is Recycling Sanitation, which is September 20th, 7 p.m. here at Town Hall.
All right, thanks. Streets and roads. Scott?
Okay, streets and roads. So for the month of August, we ended up having 2 items on the agenda. We talked about presentation, or we had a presentation of the Center Street 27 concept for the roads. So that was presented to the group. The other thing that was presented was travel signs for East Ridgeville. So 2 of the things that I was asked to look into and had brought to Barney that I'll say publicly now. One was if we could end up trying to address in some way, shape, or form people coming on 27 towards Main Street where Pizza Hut is, and if there was signage that we could put. Apparently there's some confusion or problem of people being able to turn and people coming the other direction and not realizing people can turn. It's people not paying attention to the street signs on the road, and basically talking to Barney, he says there is really nothing that we can do for signs, but I looked into it. They'll continue to look into it, but there's nothing you can do to say, hey, pay attention to the people coming in front of you. They can cross either direction. The other thing that we were asked to look into was school bus signs over by Candace. And so Barney ended up getting with Brian, and they're looking at the MUTCD standard for signs. And we'll be putting signs there to alert people that there's bus stops up ahead and they need to slow down. And that will be coming on Buffalo Road when they're coming in towards town. And so that was the 2 things. The next yard waste date for everybody, because I know that's near and dear to everybody. You missed it already, which it was this past weekend. You have the 23rd of September to get your clippings out there. You need to make sure they're out there at 6 a.m. because if they're at 6:01, you're probably hauling them back in.
They take them at 6:01. It's okay.
They're early and
If you're lucky, they are very fast and efficient. The next Streets and Roads meeting is the 26th of September. It'll be at 7:30 here in Town Hall. That concludes my report.
All right, thanks. Water and sewer. The big discussion at water and sewer, obviously, was the rates. We're waiting for the final auditors to get done. By the way, the auditors were here today. I saw them. They had the table filled. To see what our numbers are. But over the last few years, there's been, deficits in water. And it's, typically appears to be a trend. So we're looking at maybe some type of adjustment in the rate. One of the discussions we had is whether we would just want to add a couple dollars on the basic rate, the system benefit charge. Like if we were to put like $3 or $4 on that, when you divide that among every tap we have, that covers the problem. Or whether we want to put it somewhere into the water rate. So I think that's probably going to be a discussion in the next few months. That'll be the big topic, unless the audit shows something that we don't expect. And I guess just an update. I spent Saturday at MML in Annapolis working on the conference for next summer. So I'm hoping it's going to be a good conference. What is it? Live to lead is, I think, the slogan that Jake Romanell came up with. And it's nice having a MML president there who I know, who's from the town right next door. So that's kind of good. So we'll see what we come up with and all that kind of stuff. Bob?
It's early next year, too.
Yes, it is. It will
June
be
the
about
10th
2 weeks
through the
early.
13th or
It'll be like mid-June instead of late June because of the same issue with the primaries.
Right.
So it'll be about 2 weeks before it was. So
Okay.
it's in the plan, it's in the roll. The feedback from everybody last year was very positive, and we have a feedback thing. And the things that we questioned worked. For example, the open seating. We had a lot of issues
We were
about
not
that,
happy
but
about
it
that.
worked.
It
It
worked.
did work. So that planning is in process. I spent Saturday there working on that. All right, Monica, anything in your town administrator report?
Just a couple repeats. RLH CPAs, they're here this year. It's our first year with them, so they're going to be here all week during their field audit. Everything's going fine with that. Also, just wanted to mention with the Mount Airy Police Department, if you want to email them, it's the first initial and their last name at Mount Airy, Maryland, mountairymdpd.org.
So what is that?
So there's a PD
D.
after
Reeds
the.
at mountairymdpd.
Oh, so any of the
PD.
officers? you
The
get
officer.
their name.
In other words, it would be D. Reeds at mountairymdpd.org.
Okay.
So we'll make sure that's on our website so everybody knows how to get
We
to
have to
it.
learn all their names.
MDPD.
I would have gave a general, but that's fine.
Also, the town has received 10 proposals for our downtown master plan project, and we have a wide range of consultants from Maryland and other areas that have provided an interesting array of experience and backgrounds for this project. Staff will be doing the initial review of the proposals. We'll be forming an interview committee with a representation from the staff, Planning Commission, Economic Development Commission, and others. Town council is invited to participate in that important study, of course. After the final consultant is chosen, we'll be forming a steering committee that will participate during the entire study, guiding the town through the process. Also, the town staff is currently working on developing a driveway permit process for those citizens installing new driveways and considering modifying existing driveways. The town engineer and zoning staff will review all requests to ensure compliance with town codes, ordinances, and design criteria, and a small fee will be involved. That's it.
All right. For those of you who are questioning it, we pulled the salt thing. I told Debbie if we didn't need to do it in October, and she said we don't need to do it. We have one in place, so it'll be in October. So, anything we didn't need to do, I was throwing off
That's
this
fine.
agenda. Tom, you're up next, and do we need a closed meeting, do you think?
Yeah, on
Okay.
at least just one
Okay.
thing probably, but over the last month since our last meeting, worked on the litigation that's going on with respect to the denial of Juan Salas special exception. As you all know, there is a hearing in court on September 28th on his petitions for review, and we have today responded to his petitions, and you all should have copies of what we filed. I've worked on 2 code enforcement issues, the charter amendment and proposed ordinance that Councilman Strong proposed regarding compensation and the process, changing the process by which that occurs for elected officials. We've worked on mutual aid memoranda of understanding for Frederick and Carroll for our police force. Worked on the PWA and easement for Twin Arch, which were both on the agenda tonight, as well as quite a bit on the mixed-use special exception, which was approved tonight in the MXD ordinance, as well as a little bit on the Wildwood Park petition for us to take over the stormwater management facility.
All right, and which do we need a closed meeting on? We have
On
3
Marydale, there's just a quick discussion.
Okay, just so when I
wanted
call
to
for
have
it, I mention that.
involved to last month.
Okay.
And if we could ask when we clear, if y'all could clear the chambers quickly, that way you just got close the doors.
But we're not quite there yet.
Oh, okay, but we do.
Is there any other business?
Don't let Doria tell him out.
Okay, no other business. I will move the bills be paid. I see Bob waving his hand. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I will now move that we go into a closed meeting and that we be adjourned when the closed meeting is done. Under Article 3-305B3 for the possible acquisition of real property. All in favor, did I get a second from Jason?
Aye.
Aye.
Hushhour.
Aye.
Strong.
Aye.
Helt, aye. King.
Aye.
Poirier.
Aye.
Okay, I'm supposed to make that individual roll call.
Peter, here you go. You filled it out, just not what I wanted to do.
for me to fill out. Actually, should this be me or the secretary?